Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of FOREGECAST. Of course, you've been listening over on the Ecclesiarch channel, so you don't need me to introduce us again. If you haven't seen that, obviously, as always, the link is in the description below. We've just been talking about the Orks expansions and our experience really over the last month. Obviously, it was our first expansion, and we talked about the new cards, and we also covered a little bit of our thoughts on the balance patch. So definitely go and check that out if you haven't seen that. Okay, so let's jump straight in. So Ecclesiarch, we have literally just a few days ago been hit with quite a
Hmm.
ton of news about what's coming in Warpforge. Um, and I remember this Warhammer Skulls event last year being really fun. Like that was really cool. It was my first experience of one, and it looks like Warpforge is going to be obviously doing tie-ins with that, and it looks like we're getting Emperor's Children as a faction. So, do you want to just lay out for people what do we know so far? Like, what is the Emperor's Children? What is it not? Because I was certainly confused. What do we know so far? And yeah, what are we expecting? I think it's this week, isn't it? Next week, Thursday, I think.
Yeah, it's like in 4 days or something, so it's very close. And yeah, let me lay it out for you, gentlemen and ladies, if there are any.
Lady.
Ladies, probably right. So, yeah, Emperor's Children, guys. So first of all, I'd like to say that I think this is not a big surprise. I know that like for some people it was a little bit disappointing, mostly because they wanted other factions. But come on, I also personally for me as a huge Thousand Sons fanboy, I would have loved it to have been Thousand Sons. But let's be honest, we all knew it was Emperor's Children. We saw it coming because it coincided with their codex, with their new models, their stuff, and hints were there.
Mm.
And overall, I think getting a new faction is pretty cool. Especially finally, we're getting a Chaos faction and not a Marine faction, which is really good. Well, technically they're still Marines, but it's more of a mix. What do we know so far, BJ? We know for sure that this is going to be a faction. So this is not a reinforcement,
Yeah.
an expansion. This is a standalone faction of the Emperor's Children, meaning they will come with their sets of warlords, their own unique mechanics, their own stuff, basically. So this is not going to be a Black Legion reinforcement. It's going to be like Ultramarines and Dark Angels, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, another thing that we know for sure, and I don't think anybody is doubting it, is that Lucius the Eternal is going to be a warlord. We don't know which one, but I mean, we already can see that he was in the trailer. We have already figured out that he's in the art. So, yeah, guys, we are going to have Lucius. I personally despise Lucius. I despised him from Horus Heresy. It's one of my most hated characters, but I will love playing as him because I think he'll be fun. I can kind of imagine that he's going to have some cool mechanics because there's a lot of potential for actually making Lucius very interesting. And for those of you who have been playing HHL, maybe some Emperor's Children mechanics are going to make a comeback. We're going to see because there are some similar units that they still have. Now, from the Codex, if you've checked out the new Emperor's Children Codex, and maybe you got it, or maybe you saw some leaks or whatever on it, there's a couple of very interesting units there. We are maybe expecting a Lord Cacophonist. We might expect Shalaxi Hellbane, the Keeper of Secrets, maybe as a legendary card or even a Warlord. Who knows? There's obviously going to be a ton of Noise Marines. So, to be honest, I am quite excited for the faction itself, even though this was not the faction I personally wanted. I would have preferred some other faction or an alien faction, but despite that, I am still quite excited for it. Now, one thing that we don't know is whether or not they're getting their Primarch, which is a very interesting question because there have been no hints of Fulgrim. Um, in which case, probably Lucius is going to be the legendary warlord, but we will see. It does for sure open up the potential for getting our first Primarch because, well, Fulgrim just released a new model. He's now a centerpiece of the tabletop army of the Emperor's Children. So, for some of you nerds out there, maybe you can hope. Now, what else do we know? The other thing that we know is that they're going to have a campaign and they're going to have a battle pass. This is where the scary stuff starts because is this battle pass going to be a 1 month battle pass? Is the question that we want an answer to. And I pray that it's not, but I suspect that it is. So there's gonna be a vault and there's gonna be a pass. So that kind of already kills my personal hype quite a little bit because I'm not looking forward to another month of terrifying grind. I'll be honest,
And
guys.
not being able to play the new faction, right? What I don't,
Yeah.
because that's the thing. It's one thing. It's one thing with Beast Snaggers where you integrate 30 cards into the existing Orc faction, right? But if it's a brand new faction and we can only get the cards through a month, I feel I'm just gonna say now, I feel like that cannot be right. Like we've only just had like two very brief announcements that were just
Hmm.
shout at posts online. And there's a lot of I've got a lot of questions about this stuff, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. But I have a feeling that there are things we just don't know, because if it is just as it seems, like you say, like the pass is going to be like that, then we'd be in a lot of trouble, because no one's going to be playing the new faction this month basically, unless it's in draft, right, or practice mode, right? Like if it
Yeah,
works that
I
way,
mean,
that's right, isn't it? I'm not crazy about that, am I?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not actually sure how actually the practice mode is going to be even implemented there because if some of the, as you know, BJ, like when the battle pass comes, a couple of cards are locked, right? There's one legendary locked in the battle pass, and there's one locked in the vault, right?
Mm.
So technically speaking, are they going to include those in a practice deck? I do wonder about that. That is a big question personally for me, with a couple of other questions as well. So yeah, it's a little bit of a tough one. I'm not too sure
So
what that's
let's
going to
let
be.
building on what we know. Let's take a quick look at the deals, right? So we have
Straight to the
got
problem.
several bundles that are being offered in the web shop, right? So if I just click on the web shop, so essentially we get a starter bundle, which is £29.99 pounds for me, but I think it's the equivalent of the kind of entry point bundle that we've had, whatever that worked out at translating across the world. Now, when you click on that, now traditionally what this has had is it's had the premium campaign, which you and I have always been big proponents of, right? We've always said premium campaigns are the best thing to spend your money on in the game, right?
Absolutely. Like, if anybody wants more specifics, I'm gonna do a little self promotion here. There's like a very old video I have on the channel. It's called "How to Do Efficiently Like the Necron Premium Campaign," and there I have like listed exactly what you get from the premium campaign, and the value is insane. Like the amount of wild cards, the amount of crystals, cards, like epics. It's so good. It's like one of those things that made Warpforge very accessible for new players because even without the premium campaign, you as a new player are gonna get a lot of stuff. And if you pay for the premium campaign, let's say like which is like $19 or something or 20, you are guaranteed to get three legendaries. And you by the time you finish the campaign, you will also have a level 10 forge. Like, come on, because you get a lot of resources. So that's like you already get four legendaries.
Mm,
That's enough to like build almost any deck to a
yeah,
functioning level as a new player, right?
yeah.
So yeah, it's always been my favorite thing. It's always also added a nice little experience of unlocking stuff. So yeah, overall, I'm a huge fan of the campaigns
So
to this day.
aside of the self promotion and bigging up the premium campaigns, the bad news after that hype, guys, is you don't get it in this anymore. So you've always got you have always got that previously. That was that, like you say, that was kind of um, key to why most people would buy this bundle, right? Like we've always got this bundle at least pretty much because of that. But what they're doing this time is they're actually giving us five uh, Emperor's Children booster packs. Good, that's what we'd normally get. But instead of the pass, you get a battle pass, and this is where the questions begin, right? Because the only thing we've got to go on when they say those two words, battle pass, in the game of Warpforge, is what we know from reinforcements and what we know from the recent Beast Snagga expansion. That's all we've got to go on from that, right? So, does that mean it's going to be a week long thing like the reinforcement? Does it mean it's going to be a month long thing like the expansion? Does it mean it's going to be like the expansion, but they've learnt lessons, they've looked at the data, they've heard the feedback, and therefore it's going to be an evolution? Maybe the vault's better, maybe there's better value, maybe it's shorter. There's a million and one questions, right? But I suppose, I don't know about you, but the worry for me is that if it is like the Ork Snagga battle pass, that this is a terrible move. Like not having, and just to finish that thought, guys, just to show you, you then got a 49.99 bundle, which is one up, and that one also doesn't have the premium campaign. It's got the battle pass. The main difference here is that it comes with 24 Emperor's Children packs. Oh, and by the way, they give you 5 tickets to the vaults, which it's like, you know, I just said I spent 44 tickets on two two titles and 2 avatars. So forgive me if I don't get excited about 5 tickets for 50 quid. You know what I mean? It's like, and then the last one is the $100 bundle, which I'm again. I always look at these bundles, and the £100 one for me, I always look at that and I think, please, dear God, give me a reason. Give me a reason to give you £100, and it's like, you know, 45 Emperor's Children booster packs. Well, I can get more booster packs from just buying gold, basically. And that's what I'm interested in, right? It's new cards. 10 tickets, that'll be a title. And then you get another title, an avatar, and a card back. Card back looks really cool. Card back looks really cool. But that's it, really. Like, from looking at that, I'd want the booster packs. And that, by the way, is where you then get the premium campaigns. You get the premium campaign and the battle pass. So if this is these are the only bundles available, which they might not be, because as we always see, like when the launch day comes around, they often have in-game bundles, different bundles that you didn't know about. And maybe the premium campaign's going to be sold separately. Maybe we just don't know that yet. But if we're looking at what's on the web shop, it does look, Ecclesiarch, to me like we are not going to be able to get the premium campaign outside of the £100 bundle. Is that how you're reading it, and what do you think?
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Okay. So let me tell you what this is about. I think this is the first time when I'm not gonna be buying a bundle. So from day one, the only thing I literally spent the money on in this game were the premium campaigns. But then when the new factions dropped, when I looked at that, I think it was $50 bundle. I always got it because it included like the campaign, which was like $20, and then you also had like packs. You had a cool card back, a cool icon. Couldn't care less about the title, but all of that separately, like put it together, was a very good deal. But the main thing that I was going for there was the campaign. That's the main reason I was buying it, and that's it. But now I suddenly find out that I'm no longer going to be able to get the campaign from it, and unless I pay $100, and I'll be quite honest. If I want to throw $100 into Warhammer, I'll just go and get minis. Okay, so like what I'm gonna say is, yeah, the $100 value bundle. Look, okay, don't get me wrong. The $100 bundle on its own, sure, it's a good deal. You get a battle pass, you get a premium campaign, you get a ton of cards, card back. I don't have a problem with that deal existing. I would even say that's good. If somebody wants to throw in a lot of cash in the game, why not? Give them the opportunity, right? From a business perspective, perfect. But what I don't like is that for the lower costing bundles, I am not getting anything. By anything I'm talking about, I'm not getting the actual one thing that matters, which is the campaign. Because I think one of the worst things that you can do, from my perspective, to your game in general, is take away things that the players have already had. So it's not about like introducing deals that players dislike. There's always going to be somebody who's going to dislike that. Like whenever there's an ability to pay, there's going to be somebody who's going to say, hey, I don't want this because I'm a free to play player, blah, 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 yada, yada. But once you start taking away things that were already available to players, this is when the problems begin, right? This is where people already start to protest by saying, hey, we used to have this and we used to love it and it was great. Why are you taking this away from us, right?
Mm.
That's the and my mm, that is my personal issue with it completely. I think that the battle pass, they can take the battle pass and they can keep it at 100 if they want, but we need to have that premium bundle. That's what everybody's been saying because there's a lot of people on the Discord just saying, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna wait for the premium campaign. I'm just gonna buy that. I'm not gonna get these deals. So, and the same thing for me. I'm just gonna wait for the premium campaign, which of course I will get because it is vastly going to boost my experience with the new faction. But
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm ever gonna take any of these deals because they're just not worth it for me
No.
without the campaign.
No. And
That's my take.
and that's part of the problem. It's like, look, again, I don't know. I seem to be praising Magic a lot today, but another thing Magic does very well is bundles. I think because what they give you is they give you a variety of bundles. So they're tailored to different audiences, right? There are some people who will want £100 cosmetic bundle. Yeah, they'll want the titles, they'll want the cosmetics, and I think that's absolutely fine to have. I think it's absolutely fine to have. What's not fine to do though is hide the only premium access to the premium campaign behind that. Now again, caveat: we only know what two posts, we only know what's in the web shop right now. That doesn't mean that there won't be new bundles on release in game. That did happen with the Beast Snagga, for example, and that could happen here, right? The premium campaign, they could sell it you for $20 like they did with all the other ones, and that could come separately. Right now, as of recording this, that doesn't look to be an option. But the caveat is it could still happen. We could just be in the dark. The release hasn't happened yet. But I think what you and I are, our anger slash anxiety is preempting us not having access to that. And if we don't, then it's damaging, and it's taking away the wrong message, isn't it? Because they clearly see that people like the premium campaign, and I would kind of hope that they would look at that and say, well, what is it about that works? How can we do more of that? But I think what it seems to me is like they've almost looked at it and gone, well, everybody's getting this because it's better value than all the other things that we're offering. So therefore, we need to lower the value, or and I just think that's it's a bad way to approach it. Look, no, very few people, and we always have to remember this as gamers. There are very few companies that have got it right with CCGs from a business perspective, right? There are many great games. Anyone who's played Mythgard, you know what I'm talking about. The game was insane. It released with so many unique and way ahead of its time in terms of like the game features and all this sort of stuff. And it didn't last long because the business model has to work. And if we want these games that we love to still be here a year from now, we want it to succeed. It needs to financially succeed, and I totally get that, right? So I'm not saying I've got all the answers. It's not easy. There aren't many companies that have done it successfully. They're probably looking at the ones who have. Marvel Snap is an example that's doing quite well recently, but
Mm,
yeah, I absolutely hate the new release format of it. That's why I stopped playing that game. So I don't know how you balance it. I don't know what data they're looking at, what decisions, what's informing the decisions, and maybe it'd be good for us to, once we know how this release works, and if this is going to be a thing for future releases, maybe it'd be good for us to see if we can talk to the devs again on the podcast and kind of understand, because part of the problem is communication, right? Like I'm looking at this and I
totally.
read these posts and I'm just like, what is going on? And then I have to remind myself, this is just two posts. They're trying to create hype and we don't know the full story yet. So I'm trying to like wait till we see what the full story is, but
Yeah,
it's a bit worrying. I've got to be honest. It's creating more anxiety than hype for me.
I agree. One of the top things for me to worry about is that I mentioned it in the chat, and somebody asked me a good question. He told me like, "Why do you think so?" And I really don't have a question on that, like why I think so. It's just maybe a gut feeling. I don't know. But one of the things that I fear is that will the premium campaign be locked until the end of the month is my question. Because like technically speaking, technically speaking, uh if there's gonna be a month of battle pass, I'm not sure. And you're only getting premium campaign from the highest cost bundle. So let's be realistic, BJ. Only reason why you would get $100 bundle instead of a 51 is because it also includes the premium campaign,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then there's a question. If a lot of people's reaction is, I'm just not gonna get any bundle, I'm just gonna get the premium campaign for 20, then the question is EG gonna go like, okay, but now I'm gonna create a situation for you where you either buy this or wait a month. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm not saying it's gonna be like
Yeah, I
that,
see what you're saying.
but I'm just afraid of
So you
it.
think
I just
they're going to
don't want
give
it
you
to
the
happen.
premium separately, but they're going to hold it back for a month, and therefore back to where we started on your channel in part one when we were talking about that kind of excitement window, that enthusiasm period that you have, that hype period. We're going to miss it. If the premium
Yeah,
campaign isn't available from the start, if the premium campaign is not available from the start of the release, outside of the £100 deal, it's going to be a tragedy. That's going to be an absolute tragedy for the game. I'll just say it now. Um, so we wait with bated breath. But to your point, then, if they do, I don't think the £100 deal is very good. Personally, I don't think that bundle's good because
that's not.
the reason why I don't think it's good is because what they're doing is they're mixing different motivations. So it's got some cosmetics, some pack. It's like, where's the £100 value pack? Why is it that someone who's interested in getting the new cards, ultimately this is a card game, spending £100 on gold is better value than the new release pre-sale bundle? Where's the value pack? I want what I want is £100. If you buy this limited time, you get better value than you can at any other time. You will get more packs, more of the new cards. I don't. That's. I'm not the only person, right? There's got to be a clear. And you could say the same for the £50, the same for the £30. Like, where's the value bundle for the players, for the people who want the cards? Don't know.
I just actually think there's also one like very big miss that is happening to EG, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just gonna say one of the things that sold really well in HHL, like, and I'm saying it sold really well, was the alternative art. So, and I'm sure there's gonna come to Warpforge at some point, but there's gonna be a time before that happens. But BJ, basically what we had there was that you were able to pay and buy an alternative art for a warlord. So let's say I got Gaskell, right? And it would change Gaskell's art to fancier art, and his quotes would change, like voice lines and stuff. And you know, it was, and it usually came with a cool card back as well.
Yeah,
And
that's
people were
cool.
buying
Yeah,
that.
that's
People
cool.
were buying that. Like I was buying that.
Yeah,
Not always, but I had an alternative Conrad. I had
yeah.
an
Your
alternative
favorites, right? You can just pick and
Mortarian.
choose your favorites.
Yeah,
It's good.
you,
Yeah,
you just choose the ones that maybe you like and you just buy it. A lot of people were buying that, trust me, because
yeah,
I've seen a lot of people do that. And also there was a very fun is a very fun thing. Let's say you got a legendary warlord like Gaskell, right? Whenever his alternative art would be in shop, then normal Gaskell would also be in shop for just gems. And that's pretty cool. And I think like putting that kind of stuff in the battle pass is more motivating because that way, this is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, like, if you buy the battle pass, you're gonna get all of these cool things. Maybe you get wild cards, maybe you get some cool art at the end of a warlord that you love, and so on and so on. Instead of telling you, okay, you want the cards, go on, buy the battle pass, right? Well, no thanks. That's not motivating. That's demotivating. Instead, give me the options of getting maybe wild cards so that I can build a deck, get a cool cosmetic, maybe voice lines, maybe an arena. I don't know. People would, I don't know, throw tons of money into that. Like a good example of that is like League of Legends, right? League of Legends makes a, sorry for the expression, but a shit ton of money from skins and stuff like that, right? People are just throwing money into that, and not only like arenas or stuff. I understand that it's a totally different thing because there more comes with the skin, but that doesn't change the fact that people are ready to pay a ton of money for cosmetics, and I think that's a very good thing that they can monetize. So I'm just weirded out by the fact that we have to buy a battle pass to get cards instead of getting cool cosmetics, because that would be better. Not the titles though. Titles suck. So
Yeah,
we don't want that.
I do wonder how much like artwork plays a part of this whole business model, right? Because like like say you and I ran our own CCG. We started our own
Hmm.
CCG and we called it I don't know,
Something.
Fairy Universe. Now the thing with Fairy Universe, we can go, let's release 100 cards at the end of this month. And we can just make whatever art we want and blah blah blah. And obviously, there's always a process when you're talking about human done art. But the problem that they've got is there's the IP element, right? So everything has to be signed off
Totally.
by Games Workshop, and I think that probably slows down. That might be a reason why they only could do 10 or 30 cards as opposed to a 150 card expansion, because
Hmm.
maybe the art
Hmm.
is the issue. Like getting 150 arts with then alternative art backs and getting it all signed off and approved, and then the voice lines, because that's part of the IP too, right? It has to all be checked. So I can't help but feel that that's driving some of the approaches that we see, and some of the decisions that we see being made potentially. But I agree with you that the alternative art, Gwent, for example, as you know, they used to have premium card backs, animated card backs, right? And some of those animated card backs in Gwent were just like highly sought after. Like, they were phenomenal, and people will spend money on that. I'm just to be clear, I am not against cosmetics. I am saying that it's a different motivation, and I'd like to see more bundles. I'd like to see value bundles and cosmetic bundles, and maybe mixed ones as well. But currently, they're just missing opportunities. And you and I are the example of that.
Well,
We're looking at the web
there's also
shop and
another
we're not going to
thing.
buy anything because it's not speaking to us.
Yeah, I mean, if we're also about to be realistic, guys, well, let's talk about one thing. Honestly speaking, from a business perspective, if you want to get players to pay more and more money, unfortunately, there is a fact of the reason why there's no wild cards in the shop. And even though I hate it, I kind of get it, which is that if you give somebody the option to buy a wild card, they're going to buy it, sure, maybe for $20. They're going to get the card that they want. But when there's not availables, there are people who buy gold, which I think is the worst value in this game. But there's going to be a lot of people who just buy gold for money. And
Mm.
they keep opening packs, they keep opening crates, whatever. And like they're maybe getting what they want, or maybe not, or maybe getting a duplicate and stuff like that. So then they pay more money because it's like gambling. So yeah, technically that is a good way of getting people to pay money, even though I freaking hate it. So that's why I kind of maybe get why there's no wild cards in the shop. I see where that's coming from. Not that I agree with it, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I guess that's the thought process there.
Mm.
But I do not get the thought process with the premium campaign unless they're really trying to hide it behind a month. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying it's going to be like that, but I just think it's not a correct decision because I'm hearing a lot of people saying they're not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I'm just going to buy the premium campaign for 20 whenever it drops because, well, premium campaign is just that good. But otherwise, yeah, I'd say I'm disappointed. First time I'm not going to be buying a bundle. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Let's hope that some of the in-game stuff is better on the release day. So in terms of the faction itself, in terms of the cards, I mean, I've seen the Helldrake artwork on I think it was the email
Yeah.
mail shot, the Helldrake, which is really cool. That's one of my sort of like favorite chaos units from the models and tabletop. So that's really cool. I'm expecting that to be like a really one of probably the late game cards, like a probably a 7 energy to 10 energy card somewhere. Um, and also when you
I
think
think
about what
so
the
too.
Helldrake does, it seems to me like it's got to be some sort of AoE, right? Like breathing fire, fire breathing dragon, basically. It's got to have some sort of AoE thing. I mean, from a you've seen with HHL that a lot of the mechanics kind of evolve and make it over in different ways. Are there any ideas that you have that just to be clear, at this stage, you and I know nothing about mechanics for the cars. This is just speculating, having fun, geeking out a bit. Any ideas? I mean, they're built around self harm. It makes me think a bit about Skellige in Gwent, where you can kind of hurt. You can have units that'll say things like, deal at the end of the turn, deal 1 damage to the unit next to it, but then that unit says whenever it receives damage, buff it buff its power melee by 2 or something like that, like a kind of self-harm mechanic. Is there anything from HHL that you think might fit
Uh,
well with this theme?
so I'm gonna tell you what were the two HHL mechanics for Emperor's Children and what I might see coming back. I'm not too excited, by the way, about that, but I'll tell you why. So one of their mechanic was perfection, which of course fits the 30k Emperor's Children ideally from a lore perspective. It was basically Codex. It's exactly Codex, almost one-on-one, except Codex can be triggered multiple times. Perfection could be triggered one time. So you would drop a unit. If it wasted all your energy, remaining energy, it would pull an extra effect, which was pretty cool. I liked it. But the second one that they had was Disorient. Now, Disorient was a terrifying mechanic, and mostly they came from the Cacophony, which they are going to have because we already saw the Art of the Lord Cacophonist in the artwork, so probably he's going to be a legendary card. What Disorient did was when a unit was disoriented, every time it attacked, it had a chance to attack a random unit on the battlefield, including your own units. So let's say you drop a Squiggoth and I disoriented, chances are that's going to go into your face. So you're gonna think twice before attacking. And God, I hate that mechanic because it's so toxic. But I can see it coming to the game. It's in some way or form. The other thing that Emperor's Children kind of did there, I don't think it was their own personal mechanic. I'm not sure because Emperor's Children were in HHL from day like I think day one. They a lot of their units being duelists, they had the first strike ability. So what first strike is, BJ,
Mm.
is it's snipe but for melee basically. So if you're
Ah,
killing
okay.
something, they don't retaliate. So I
Mm.
could see that coming back as a mechanic because, no, technically speaking, I can see their units having slay and first strike, for example. I
Mm.
can see the disorient coming back. In terms of self harm, there were like two things there. One was enhancements. Probably they won't be present. That was the Fabius Bile thing. But one of the other things that they had the specific mission card. You would play it whenever your units would get damaged, you got ticks, and when you finished up, your units got dark pacts when you play them, marks of chaos in HHL, as
Mm.
they're called. So I can see that they're gonna probably expand on it, and they are gonna have the self harm mechanic, but it should be a little bit different than the original because we already have a self harm mechanic, which is the penance from sisters, right?
Mm.
So we probably are gonna get it in a different way, maybe. So maybe like whenever you're attacking or whenever you're damaging your own units, or there's probably gonna be something about that.
Mm. I
Uh,
also wondered if they could do like a painometer. So like in Sisters
hmm,
Build Up Faith, is it like the amount of pain and torment that that they feed off the tormented souls, and you've almost got a painometer, and the more
yeah,
pain you've inflicted as the game goes on, you've inflicted more pain, and then maybe there's a payoff to the amount of pain I don't know. You're just
that
talking
could
about this
be.
stuff. It's so sadistic, but
That they could be because, like, in their new codex, the army rule I think is thrill seekers, and I think thrill seekers is gonna be somehow implemented in it because, as I've been noticing, a lot of things from the codexes are being taken because EG do love to be lore accurate. Like, for example, for Dark Angel secrets and agendas and stuff, all of these things are from codexes, right? So
mm,
I think thrill seekers could be there. Maybe that's gonna be a meter, as you said. I
mm,
don't know. I'm also excited to see if they get Terminators, are they going to have the teleport? Which is also very interesting because teleport is a very good mechanic. Well, in terms of Dark Angels, but I don't see them it being a very good mechanic for other factions because it's going to be very RNG. So it's very questionable. I would like to see what happens there and how many mechanics are they willing to add. With Dark Angels, we got agenda, we got secrets, while also getting the slay mechanic, right?
mm.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm expecting a lot of things. Also, I'm very interested to see the is are we going to get here's a good one, BJ. So are we going to get a new demon subtype is my question because in
Mm.
HHL we got demons and I am pretty sure
Demonettes. We
based
should get Demonettes, right? And we should get the
demonettes,
Riders. The
Seekers of Slanesh
Yeah,
and the whatchamacallit, the Keepers of Secrets.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless the only if we don't get demons, then it does make me think that maybe we'll get Chaos Demons as its own faction, maybe, because we've not seen really any demons, and they've done very little in terms of like demon princes and possession and things like that. I know there is a card called possession in the Black Legion, but it's useless. And yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see where it goes. Um, I mean, hype level out of 10 for this release?
Here's what I'd say. If there was no battle pass and the deals hadn't happened, I would say my hype would be very high. I'll be
Yeah,
honest, because I still like the Emperor's Children, despite them being on the bottom of my favorite legions. I still would be very hyped for a lot of stuff. Now with the battle pass and the stuff, I'm gonna say this: I'm hyped for Emperor's Children, but I'm more anxious than hyped.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
my personal thing. I'm afraid of how good this is going to be or how bad this is going to be. Again, I don't like to speak in advance. The only thing I can speak for in advance is not liking what they did with the deals.
yeah.
Rest, we're going to see in like 3 days.
We're
And
gonna see.
of course, I'm going to say my piece after that.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely. I mean, and we'll come back together. We'll do another one soon, because we'll have all the cards out, so we'll be able to maybe a week in or something. We can kind of digest it and see what we think. But
Mm.
I mean, I've always loved new factions. I think whenever a new faction comes out in Warpforge, that's one of the most exciting times to play the game. And this year has felt a little bit slow, if I'm honest, on that front. The back end of last year, it was great. We were getting lots of stuff. I feel like it's been very slow. So I think the game is very much due a new faction. I think that's pretty hype. I'm just I'm just worried that we're not going to be able to play it in the first month or two. So that's the thing that's killing my hype at the minute. Um, but in terms of getting a new faction and a whole load of new cards and new ways to play, that's always fun for me. It's always cool. So we shall see, my friend. We have not got long to wait. Tune in on the 22nd of May. You will have the Skulls event. I think it's going live at 1600 UTC. So you'll be able to watch along on Steam, and I believe it'll be on Twitch as well. I don't know whether we're planning to get card reveals building up. We've heard nothing yet from EG, but it's possible they may come to us early next week and do that. We shall see. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, everybody. Ecclesiarch, thanks for joining, and let's catch up in a few weeks when we have the cards and we see how all this unfolds. And it'll be great to look back on what we've said today and see how it all came to be. Until next time, I was going to say
Have a good one.
something cool and 40k related, but have a good one. Will do. Take it easy,
I mean,
guys.
considering the anxiety, it's hard to do that. So.